All right, welcome to another episode. This is going to be about uh, the ratings, WWE's ratings, the Smackdown versus Raw uh, battle that's going on now. It's being dubbed the Tuesday Night Wars, and also to address a lot of fan speculation about Raw and Smackdown, creative teams, management, and who's making the calls, what's going on. I'm seeing a lot of stuff online, and it's just people don't know what they're talking about. I mean, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but at least I've done a lot of research, and it's not stuff that I made up in my mind or I want it to be. And we'll be talking about that. WWE's fired a head writer, as a matter of fact, this week. They always do that. They're famous for shakeups every year. Two or three times a year, they're famous for doing some shakeups and cleaning up. We'll talk about their current TV deal, the network subscriptions. Lots going on. New Japan just had their Wrestle Kingdom 11. Kenny Omega. He made some interesting quotes. He had interesting statements. Future signings with the Hardys, TNA ushered in their supposed new era. So, and also the Hall of Fame is coming up as is the annual event during WrestleMania weekend. So there's lots to talk about. And first of all, for those who've subscribed, thank you very much. And thank you for all the viewers. Even if you don't agree with me, that's what we're here for, to discuss. So let's get to it. And yes, last week SmackDown Live beat Raw for the first time in the ratings, and this week they drew 2.6 million viewers, a little bit less than last week. They didn't beat Raw this week in the ratings. Well, ever since the brand split, we knew that SmackDown was going to get more emphasis, especially when USA forced Vince McMahon and WWE to go live with SmackDown, and they switched to Tuesdays because the USA Network was not happy with the SmackDown ratings. SmackDown was just a throwaway show. It was basically to review Raw and have a couple of matches. It wasn't what SmackDown used to be. SmackDown since its inception and in the early 2000s was just a very good wrestling show. When Paul Heyman was in charge of creative, most wrestling fans would favored that show to Raw. It's always been more of a in-ring action, focused on the wrestling aspect, compared to Raw, which is usually focused on the sports entertainment aspect, more of storylines. But quickly we saw Dean Ambrose defeated The Miz for the IC Championship. It was an okay episode of SmackDown. Well, okay, decent at best. But man, with all these, I keep hearing all this talk online with the fans, and how SmackDown is so much better. Yeah, it is. I think as a wrestling fan, I enjoy SmackDown better. It's much more interesting things. There was a show on the WWE Network after Raw Monday, called "Bring It to the Table," and it had Paul Heyman and JBL. It was hosted by Peter Rosenberg, I think that's his name, from Hot 97 radio station in New York, and I wasn't too happy with that. All these shows on the WWE Network, they try to portray them as shoot interviews or shoot shows. They're not shoot shows. They can't be shoot shows because any employee from the WWE can't say anything bad about WWE or they'll get punished. So I don't give too much. I'll never watch these shows. There's nothing new to learn. They basically trash the fans who have anything negative to say. So screw them and screw Paul Heyman. His character is not, a lot of people look at these people for their characters on TV. They're not, they're much different in real life. And it's clear they have a disdain for fans. I mean, fans could state their opinion without being criticized. Basically, Paul Heyman said until the fans boycott, they could go screw themselves if they complain. Because, in their eyes, the fans always complain about everything. They'll always find something to complain about. Yeah, it's true to some sense, but if there's a constant theme that the fans are complaining about, maybe they should listen to. And I think they do. They just don't want to. They don't want to give the fans power, and acknowledge the fans, because then the fans will start to think and start to feel that whatever they want to see changed or they want to see on TV, they think that the WWE will follow suit to every one of their whims. So I could understand that, but anyway, the ratings, the ratings are important. So many people, fans have said in the past, the apologists who defend WWE and make excuse after excuse that the ratings don't matter. The ratings matter, trust me. Just look at all the other TV shows on TV and cable. They get canceled. Low ratings, they get low ratings, they get canceled, and they get canceled quick. Some shows get one season, and that's it. They're one and done. If they don't show promise in the first season, these networks have very little patience. They have five to 10 more shows waiting to take their place. Raw and SmackDown WWE is a little different. They've been on TV, USA mostly, for 20 years. They had a brief stint on Spike, I believe it was, on the Spike network for a couple of years. But WWE is a big ratings producer. Maybe not as big as in the late 90s and early 2000s, but still compared to all the other shows, they still are in the top 3, 4, 5, mostly in the top 3. They average about 2.45 ratings lately, and which is fine. But that's not the issue. The issue is the decline. It's been a steady decline for the last 7, 8, 9 years. And what's in store for this year and in the future? This is why I said in my title, 2017 State of Emergency, this is a pivotal year. And it seems like every new year is going to be a pivotal year for WWE. Their current TV deal with NBC Universal expires in early 2019. So, yeah, they could fool around and they could say all they want that they don't care about the ratings, but trust me, the ratings care, because just look at the USA Network. They cared about SmackDown's ratings, and believe me, if the ratings keep slipping and they start going under 2, Vince and WWE will have a lot to hear from USA Network. But that's my point. It's not that that SmackDown, WWE, Raw, and SmackDown have such low ratings that they're going to get canceled, but it can happen. It could happen. Anything can happen. We saw that with WCW back in 1999. They just pulled the plug on TNT. They went under new management. They just pulled the plug on WCW. WCW was still doing good ratings. They had the last episode of WCW, I think, averaged 3.2 or 3 rating. That's if Raw did that today, they would be throwing a party in Stanford. So it could be canceled. Don't think that WWE is foolproof, and Vince and his cronies should be aware of that. But as I stated, their contract will expire. Their current TV contract will expire, and again, if you think ratings don't matter, this their TV contract is generates a bulk of their revenue. Uh, Generates about $150 million a year annually for them off their TV deal with USA Network. Uh, the WWE Network, it's been okay. They're up to 1.5 million subscribers, I think. Still, I mean, they thought they were going to get 2 million by now, and they always get that little bump around WrestleMania, but then it goes back down because people subscribe to WrestleMania for that month, and then they cancel it. So that was a very important another big chunk of their revenue, their pay per view, which they exchanged for the WWE Network. Each pay per view used to be around $50 for each pay per view. Now it's $10 a month, and it used to be one pay per view a month. Now, since the brand split, each brand, Raw and SmackDown, has their own pay per view every 2 weeks. So is it going to be a lot overkill? I don't know. My theory is that that's why a lot of the episodes of Raw and sometimes SmackDown are a little weak because they save it for the pay per view. In the late '90s and early 2000s, which was the Attitude Era, I guess, and even the Ruthless Aggression Era, when the Raw episodes, the SmackDown episodes were really, really good. This is something that's forgotten about. When the pay-per-views came around, I remember there was a lot of complaints about the pay-per-views. Saying a lot of fans would say, "Oh, this is just like an episode of Raw." So because Raw was pretty good, Raw and SmackDown were very good episodes, very good shows, weekly, from week to week, and in those days they were very good. And then when the pay-per-views came around, I mean, you couldn't really tell that much. You couldn't differentiate between the pay-per-views and the TV shows. Of course, there was always a big match, usually on the pay-per-views, or there would be a big title change. But this is why I think they scale back on the TV shows and don't give away everything for free, so they could make the pay-per-views feel more special. So, but of course, with that said, they better make sure that when they do have their pay-per-views for each brand, that they do stand out from the TV. So far, I have to say, on the whole, yes. But and this is another thing I always say with us fans, we have to manage our expectations. I know I'm not apologizing or defending WWE. I'm just trying to correct or check a lot of the fans out there who have these just high expectations that could never be met or fulfilled. They watch WWE and wrestling, and they start building up these storylines in their head, and then when the storylines aren't met, they go bananas. I mean, I understand. You can't complain. That's okay. Like I said, it's okay to complain, but you have to manage your expectations. So many fans, every time there's a new performer gets called up, oh, they got to push him, and he's got to be the champion within 2 months. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, you were complaining about a current performer on the roster not getting a push. Now, all of a sudden, a new performer comes on the roster, and you want him to get a push. There's only so many top spots. Now, with that said, that's where WWE, in my opinion, does a bad job with their top spots. And a little bit later in the episode, there's another wrestler who agrees with me. They have chosen John Cena and now Roman Reigns the last 2-3 years as the top spot, the main eventers, the face of the company. Fans have rejected these guys. 60% have rejected Cena. For the last 6, 7, 8 years, he has gotten a steady mixed reaction. Roman Reigns, the last 2-3 years, has gotten a steady negative reaction. And now WWE can defend it all they want and say they love the reaction and these two get a strong reaction. That's bull. That's bullshit. Because if they did, then why do they go through so many? Why do they go through so much trouble to edit out the sounds, the fan sounds, and they mute the boos, and they pipe in cheers and chants. And if you don't believe me, then you really better start paying attention. So anyway, there was news this week uh, that Charter Communications, Charter Spectrum Cable Systems, they were in a there was a contract negotiation battle, and they, about a dozen channels were in jeopardy of being blacked out, including USA. And Charter Spectrum provides services to 25 million customers in 41 states. They're the second largest cable provider in the United States behind Comcast. So, luckily for WWE, they did settle, and otherwise that's a big chunk of their ratings would have been down the tubes for a period of time. So, and getting back to this contract that expires in 2019, why the ratings are important. See, when WWE went and negotiated their contract in 2014, they went in there with their chests all puffed up, and probably strode in there, and they demanded a high number. Now, was that a strategy? Instead of lowballing, you go high? I don't know, but it's based on ratings. And although the WWE does pull in ratings, and they are considered a cheap production by these networks, meaning that the production isn't that expensive if compared to a TV show that you have to go out and film on location and pay the actors and stuff like that. But the ratings, the networks look at the ratings, and they also did a scientific study of WWE's consumers and people watch, and they showed that a lot of a good bulk of WWE fans and consumers who watched their product, Raw and SmackDown, were of low value. And what I mean by that is their annual income, their education level, and probably their age. They're not high value customers, meaning they don't have a lot of money, and they're not likely to go out and buy expensive things and that are going to be advertised on these shows. So that's why they advertise Mountain Dew and Cheetos and stuff like that. Those are cheap products that will likely get purchased by the WWE fans watching. So my point in all this is, in 2019, when the WWE has to renegotiate again, they can't go in with their chests all puffed up, and Vince is going to be demanding this much and that much, because they have they're not going to be in a position of strength to bargain and negotiate with. If in 2017, the year we are now, let's say they're at 2.2, and if they keep declining by 2000, and if it stays true by 2019, they'll have a 1.2 rating, a 1.5 rating. And I don't want to hear all these fans come up with excuses and defend WWE and say, "Oh, well, the technology is different. They're cutting the cord. That people cutting the cord with cable." That's getting bullshit. Don't you think these networks know that? They provide other venues to watch the show. If you live stream a show on your device or phone through your cable company, it counts as a live rating. If you DVR the show and you watch in the first 24 hours, it counts as a live rating. So, why isn't this a problem with other TV shows or sports? Oh, well, the NFL, their ratings went down too. No, that's just a glitch. What happened early in the year with the Colin Kaepernick controversy, and the players were protesting. A lot of fans were pissed off about that. Most of the first half of this year, the NFL was boring. There wasn't that many superstars. There wasn't a great team, but they'll bounce back. Will WWE bounce back? That remains to be seen. But all these devices and stuff, they count. There's all these ratings are accounted for. Trust me. And then the big we'll move on with Raw vs. SmackDown, and there's this rumor and this fantasies about Shane McMahon. Now he's the genius. Early in the year, it was Triple H was the genius. He was the creative genius. Once NXT was really popular, In 2015 and early part of this year, Triple H was the genius because obviously he reinvented wrestling with NXT by signing uh, the top stars from around the world, and then he actually let them wrestle on the show. I mean, he reinvented wrestling. Triple H is an amazing man. He actually made he actually signed stars, put them in a ring, and made them wrestle. Not a lot of talk about NXT lately, right? Now that most of the stars are on the main roster. So now it's Shane that's the genius. He was brought back early last year in 2016 for WrestleMania to go against the Undertaker. The storyline was that he would take over Raw if he won. He lost, but the next night we know Vince McMahon said, "Screw it, I'll give you a chance." So anyway, after the Raw, the brand split, Shane took over SmackDown, and Stephanie, his sister, took over Raw. And Vince said, "I want to see you guys cut each other's throat." Not literally, but he's an idiot. He's just an idiot sometimes. I know that's the character of Mr. McMahon, but he's an idiot. So I think this is maybe the fans are really buying into the storyline a little too much. Now, with that said, and I'll say it again, I said it again. In 2012, there's this legendary story online that surfaces among all the websites and dirt sheets that Shane tried to take over creative back in 2012. And I'll read you the quote. It was a few years ago as Paul Levesque, Triple H, was gearing up to launch NXT. Ratings were down and Vince was on the edge. The writing room became a battlefield, and even people outside the company took notice, including Shane McMahon. In March 2012, Vince, according to a familiar source with the Exchange, called a surprise meeting at the WWE production office, a separate facility from the main headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. Shane had returned with a friend, James Fry, the author of the critically acclaimed and later highly controversial Million Little Pieces, and by the time, the CEO of Full Fathom 5, a content creation company founded. So yeah, so back in 2012, the ratings took a big dip. As I mentioned in my previous video, the first, really the big effect, fallout of WCW and ECW going out of business had been felt. Now there was nowhere to get ready-made stars and just sign them and bring them in, like they had done in the past, in history. You know, Stone Cold, they signed him from WCW. Anybody who was out there, they would sign. Hulk Hogan, they signed from AWA. So Shane, it says a spokesman from WWE originally denied that Shane approached WWE in any capacity between 2009 and 2016, but later confirmed that this meeting took place. And quote, and he says, when Stephanie found out Shane was going to be there, she went white in the face, the source told me, and Paul freaked out, Paul being Triple H. Shane had set up the meeting through Kevin Dunn, WWE's creative vice president of production, and Vince's right hand for 3 decades. He is the second highest paid employee. Shane had a simple proposal that he would take over all of creative, including the writers' room, with his friend Fry and his team of the Full Fathom 5 consultants. So what this story was, Shane was out of the company for a long time. He had gone off to his own vices in China. He was trying to start, I think it was the YouTube version of YouTube in China, I believe, or just Netflix. I'm not sure. But so he supposedly saw that the ratings were falling, and he saw the direction of the company, and he proposed that he take over the writings. Now, I don't think when Stephanie and Triple H freaked out, I don't think it was because of Shane. I think it was because of Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn is the number 2 man behind Vince. He's been there for a long time, as I just said. They don't like him. There's a faction in management that is aligned with Kevin Dunn, and there's a faction that is against him for whatever reason. Maybe they think he's old thinking, he's out of touch, whatever. Uh, Obviously, Stephanie and Triple H are not with him, and they want to see him gone. But as long as Vince is there, Kevin Dunn's not going anywhere. So I think that's what the the beef was about. And I'll go on with the quotes. Kevin Dunn is very close to Shane, said the source, and there's tremendous tension between Kevin, Paul, and Stephanie. They feel like the company is theirs, but they don't have power to control Kevin. See, there you go. Presumably, if Dunn could figure out a way to get Shane back in the company in a high rank position, he would even have more influence with Vince. So yeah, and Shane too could regain control over at least a portion of his family's legacy. It was a win-win for the pair. So it was a power play. Not that Shane intended it to, but Kevin Dunn saw it as a big power play. If he could get Vince to agree to get his son Shane to take over creative, Kevin Dunn would be that much more powerful. But in the end, Vince declined his son's offer, and it'd be 4 more years before Shane would come back. So there you have it. And that's give credit to WrestlingNewsWorld.com by Jason Brown. I'll give credit to them, of course. So there you have it. I mean, this is all a bunch of crap. Shane is on-air talent. That's all he's listed as on-air talent. Now, again, the rumors are that he has some. The tension is, and there's the current story is there is tension between him and Triple H and Stephanie. That's because the rumor is that they feel that because SmackDown is better, and Shane is the general manager of SmackDown, that he has more influence on the creative team. Now, what it is they distinguish both shows. They have the same writers, but they try to make both the shows distinguishable. Like I said, Raw is more of the sports entertainment aspect with wrestling sprinkled in. SmackDown is more of the wrestling in-ring action aspect. So they try to cater to both types of fans. Raw is more how can I say this? Raw is more catered to the average fan. So, and with that, there was a firing this week. Vince fired a head writer. See, so there you go. And like I said, he's quoted as saying it's time to shake things up. And according to F4WOnline.com, WWE fired Tom Casillo. He was the head writer. He was the managing lead writer for both Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. So there you go. To all the fans that speculate about Shane and this guy, Tom Casillo, he was a head writer. And the teams are set in place. It's not Shane writing the show, although Vince does have the final say for both shows, but it's also Triple H and Stephanie. So Vince has relinquished a lot of control, about 70 to 80% of control over Raw and SmackDown to Triple H and Stephanie. They have a lot to do with the on-screen performance. So the article goes on to say it wasn't unknown at this time why Casillo was released from contract. He had spent 20 years as a writer of daytime soap operas. So there you go. See, this is what I mean. Maybe that's why when you see this dialogue and the storylines, they get these Hollywood writers and try to these soap opera writers, and they try to make WWE soap opera. And that's where they fail. A lot of WWE performers are not actors. They're not TV actors. They're not screen actors, and that's why you see that they're uncomfortable with their dialogue. In the old days, you had wrestlers, ex-wrestlers, or people who were in the business doing the writing. So, and the complaint is, here's a quote: "First, you're the second coming of Christ, and Vince loves you. Then, over time, he decides you're a moron, and he can't wait to get rid of you. It's a slow, painful death. I don't know if he's so smart and savvy, and he just enjoys the sport of doing that, or if that is unconscious. But it has happened so many times that it really damages people with the experience." Yeah, listen, and he says, "Listen, Vince, he changes his mind. He's always going to be that way. One minute he thinks you have a great idea, the next minute he forgets about you. And I'll go on as a former WWE executive to Vice Sports. Instead of cultivating a healthy creative environment where new ideas are encouraged and allowed to flourish, Vince craves conformity, is stuck in his ways, and doesn't tolerate defiance. Well, so he wants yes men. But if you hear a lot of wrestlers talk, ex wrestlers and current wrestlers, they always say you could go up to Vince if you have an idea. So I don't know. I'm not there. Nobody's there, but this is with the writing team, I guess. But he is open minded. Quote, he takes great lip service to wanting new ideas, but he doesn't value or respect outside opinion. It's his way or no way. Vince's philosophy, which is hysterical, is every day is your first day on the job. That's not a philosophy to run a company, but a rationalization for Vince to change his mind whenever he wants. Yes, it's his toy. It's his company. He trusts himself more than anybody else. Vince is stuck in his ways. He's stubborn. We know about this. So anyway, the article went on to say that Tom was very influential with the recent push in the women's wrestling, but he might have butted heads with Vince and Kevin Dunn, and that's by SB Nation Keith Harris. Listen, this is always going to happen. The storylines change, their directions change, like the seasons change. So if you're a writer there, try to get a year, at least a good year or two, and just move on. It's not like writing for a regular TV show. And listen, writers are always like that. I remember hearing on the David Letterman show that he used to go through writers like toilet paper. So that's gonna do it with that, with WWE, the ratings, and we'll quickly move on. Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who was charged with murder, he apparently will not be charged. They say the charges are going to be dropped because he's not fit to stand trial. They say he has less than a year to live. He got stomach cancer. I mean, this was a case. It's tragic. It was a case that was cold. They call it a cold case when it's unsolved for 30 years, and then they decide to reopen it and press charges. I don't know why. I'm not sure, but it's wrestling news and whatever. It's done now. And moving on, like I said previously, the WWE's Hall of Fame, the annual event during WrestleMania weekend. The first name announced was DDP, and apparently the second name announced will be Ravishing Rick Rude. Pretty good names so far. Well, still to see. There'll probably be 2-3 more names, and including the headliner. And then from here we move on to New Japan Wrestling. Yesterday they had their the annual Wrestle Kingdom 11 in Tokyo. The main event was Kenny Omega versus Okada. Kazuchika Okada. I'm sorry, I botched that name. But as many described who watched the match, and I watched it too, it was pretty good. They said they turned in a 5-star match. I don't know about 5-star, but it was a good wrestling match, very good wrestling match. I mean, maybe compared to the wrestling we're getting here in the United States, specifically WWE, I'm glad to see that pro wrestling, not sports entertainment, is still alive and well. And Kenny Omega, he is very proud of that. And he had, after the event, he had some controversial quotes that are making the internet waves. He says, "I'm happy that I dislike wrestling and where wrestling is at right now. I am happy that when I watch something on TV that isn't me, I hate it." So he's saying that basically he hates anything on TV that's wrestling that doesn't involve him. That makes me try all the more hard to show people what wrestling can be. That's not to say everything is bad, but a lot of wrestlers in a position on television or guys thrust into a main spot should it be. I take a lot of pride in what I do. There is a place for everyone, but if you are in the main position with a main company, you have to make those sacrifices to show people you are the man. So, wow, who do you think he's talking about? Obviously, he just took a big swipe at Cena, John Cena, and Roman Reigns. He's calling them lazy. And nothing like I haven't said before, and a lot of fans haven't said before. But if you say this, oh my God, you get so many negativity coming back because to a lot of fans, these guys are heroes. They're pushed as heroes. That's all they know. That's all they ever seen. They don't watch wrestling anywhere else but Raw and SmackDown, so they don't know any better. And then he goes on to say, "I'm wondering why in the hell are these guys not rising up? Why are they not doing what it takes to be better? Are they so happy to be a cog in the WWE machine that they're just happy to be where they are? Are they just satisfied to see WWE as a name on their paycheck every week? Yeah. Why can I keep getting better and pushing the envelope to have these matches here, but no one else can even come close? AJ Styles has been great, but he's been great forever. Why is there no one else?" Wow. So he basically called uh, 3/4 of the WWE roster lazy, uninspired, and he's right. And Kenny, the reason why you have to get better and these guys don't is because they have a guaranteed paycheck. And Roman Reigns and John Cena, it doesn't matter. They put on lazy matches, and I trash Cena and Reigns every chance I get. I made a video about John Cena being a phony, and I get negative comments and so many dislikes. I don't care. I'm not gonna sell out and praise somebody when they shouldn't be praised. And Roman Reigns, how many times I made a video about him exposing the business is fake? How many times have I said it? The guy can't sell. He's a lazy uh, idiot in the ring. There was recently last week somebody tweeted out a video clip of him versus Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens had him in a reverse chinlock chokehold. And as Kevin Owens is going back and forth to the fan, he said something funny, and Roman Reigns starts laughing while he's in the chokehold. He starts laughing, and he covered up, and you could hear the fan recording it say, "Hey, look, he's laughing. Even he's laughing. He's supposed to be getting choked, and he's laughing." What a piece of garbage! What a piece of garbage! And he's the top guy. And nothing that's happens to him. He'll get rewarded more. He'll probably get the belt next month at the Royal Rumble. He'll get a big match at WrestleMania. He doesn't care. He knows it. In the old days, he would have been fired for exposing the business, or at the very least, he would have been punished. He would have been doing jobs for 6 months. What a piece of trash! So I'm glad Kenny Omega trashes him. He says he wants to be the guy, the legend who never stepped into a foot into WWE ring. He does. So he does. Him, and even the Young Bucks. Trust me. They've been approached by Triple H numerous times, and they keep turning them down, and for good reason. Why? They don't want to go to WWE and become jobbers or laughing stocks and lose in 2 minutes and never be highlighted. Good for them. As long as they're making good money in Japan, screw the WWE. Just look at what happened to the club with Gallows and Machine Gun Anderson. They came in with all they were tremendous in New Japan. They come in and look what happened to them. Thank God, I'm still surprised. I still can't believe it, and thank God AJ Styles didn't suffer the same fate. That's how good AJ Styles is, that they couldn't suppress him. So that was by Sports Illustrated, Jonathan Garland. And in another article, WWE says they have no interest in signing the Hardys. The Hardys' contract is coming up. Who knows? Maybe they could be negotiating. That could be a negotiating ploy. And then TNA, they last night they had another episode from the Impact Zone in Orlando, and they ushered it in as Anthem. This was supposed to be. It's TNA has new owners, and they're going to be headed into the new direction. I didn't watch it. I hope TNA stays on the air. I hope they start doing good, because they need WWE needs some competition, because they're lazy too. WWE. Remember, it starts the fish stinks from the head up, head down. So with that said, I think we'll wrap it up. I hope we covered a lot. I hope you liked. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, leave your comments below. Thank you, and I'll be making another video soon.